Hello, my name is Lauren Leverins, and today I will be discussing the topic of data analysis, an important use for many businesses. The comic shown on the screen states, using data to make decision. What a novel idea. And in my opinion, they're laughing at how long it took for people to figure out that data analysis would be a good and useful idea. In the next few slides, you will learn what data analysis is. On the agenda for today's topic, data analysis, is to discuss what it is, types of data analysis, the importance, disadvantages and advantages, and analysis of graphs, and finally, examples of it used in Google and Walmart. According to businessdictionary.com, data analysis is defined as the process of evaluating data using analytical and logical reasoning to examine each component of the data provided. This form of analysis is just one of the many steps that must be completed when conducting a research experiment. Data from various sources is gathered, reviewed, and then analyzed to form some sort of finding or conclusion. So analysis of data is a process of inspecting, cleaning, transforming, and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, suggesting conclusions, and supporting decision-making. Descriptive is the first type of data analysis. It describes the main aspects of the data being analyzed. The next is exploratory, and with exploratory data analysis, one is looking for unknown relationships. This type of analysis is a great way to define new connections and to provide future recommendations. Inferential analysis is when a researcher takes a small sample in order to point out something about a larger population. And then predictive analysis predicts future happenings by looking at current and past facts. The last is causal, and causal analysis is used to find out what happens to one variable when you change some other variable. Quantitative data is information about quantities. That is information that can be measured and written down with numbers. Some examples of quantitative data are your height or your shoe size. It is used to quantify attitudes, opinions, behaviors, and other defined variables, and generalize results from a larger sample population. Quantitative research uses measurable data to formulate facts and uncover patterns in research. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is primarily exploratory research. It is used to gain an understanding of underlying reasons, opinions, and motivations. It provides insights into the problems or helps to develop ideas or hypotheses for potential quantitative research. So in the end, they all come back together. A strong supporter of data analysis, Megindia.biz.com states about the importance of business analysis that data analysis is important to businesses because that will be an understatement. In fact, no business can survive without analyzing available data, they say. Data analysis is the lifeline of any business. Whether one wants to arrive at some marketing decisions or fine-tune a new product launch strategy, data analysis is the key to all the problems. What is the importance of data analysis? Instead, one should say what is not important about data analysis. They say merely analyzing data isn't sufficient from the point of view of making a decision. How does one interpret from the analyzed data is more important? Thus, data analysis is not a decision-making system, but decision-supporting system. I have defined 3 major advantages to using data analysis. The first is that it provides depth and detail by looking deeper than analyzing ranks and counts by recording attitudes, feelings, and behaviors. It also creates openness by encouraging people to expand on their responses and can open up new topic areas not initially considered. And finally, personal biases can be avoided by researchers by keeping a distance from participating subjects and employing subjects unknown to them. key disadvantages of data analysis is that its results are limited as they provide numerical descriptions rather than detailed narrative and generally provide less elaborate accounts of human perception. In addition, preset answers will not necessarily reflect how people really feel about a subject, and in some cases might just be the closest match. The development of standard questions by researchers can lead to structural bias and false representation, where the data actually reflects the view of them instead of the participating subject. Charts, graphs, and textual write-ups of data are all forms of data analysis. These methods are designed to refine and distill the data so that readers can glean interesting information without needing to sort through all of the data on their own. At this point, an analyst might begin researching for patterns among the data. Defining data is an important part of data analysis. One of the best examples of data analysis and decision making falls to Google. Startups are famous for disbanding hierarchies, and Google was curious whether having managers actually mattered. To answer the question, data scientists at Google looked at performance reviews and employee surveys from the manager's subordinates. The analyst plotted the information on a graph and determined that managers were generally perceived as good. They went a step further and split the data into the top and bottom quartiles, then ran regressions. These tests showed large differences between the best and worst managers in terms of team productivity, employee happiness, and employee turnover. Google's analysts found the top 8 behaviors that make a great manager at Google and 3 that don't. They revised their management training, incorporating the new findings, continuing the Great Manager Award, and implementing a twice-yearly feedback survey. Walmart used a similar process when it came to emergency merchandise in preparation for Hurricane Frances in 2004. Executives wanted to know the types of merchandise they should stock before the storm. Their analysis mined records of past purchases from other Walmart stores under similar conditions, sorting a terabyte of customer history to decide which goods to send to Florida. It turns out that in times of natural disasters, Americans turn to strawberry Pop-Tarts and beer. Isn't that funny? To conclude, this presentation was able to touch on key concepts of data analysis, such as what it is, types of data analysis, the importance, disadvantages and advantages to data analysis, analysis of graphs, and finally, examples of it used in Google and Walmart. Data analysis is a useful way to emerge businesses to be competitive.